How important is it for you as a business owner to go to networking events or other in-person events like conferences and workshops? Well, if your answer is not very important, you might rethink your position on it after this episode of Architecture Business Club, the weekly podcast for solo and small firm architecture practice owners just like you who want to build a profitable, future-proof architecture business that fits around their life. I'm the host, John Clayton, and if you want a business in architecture that gives you more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment, then go to architecturebusinessclub.com/blueprint and download the Architecture Business Blueprint. It's the step-by-step formula to freedom for architects, architectural technologists and architectural designers, and it's absolutely free as a gift from me. Now, let's discuss networking and in-person events. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Today it's all about networking and attending in-person events. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why these events matter and to give you some suggestions about how you can handle them, particularly if you're a little bit shy or perhaps if there isn't anything local to you. Why bother to go to networking events or other in-person events like workshops and conferences? They're an opportunity for growth, so you can meet new people who might be potential clients, future collaborators, maybe your next mentor. You can get new ideas, you can discover new trends, whether that's within architecture if you're attending an architecture-specific event, or whether that's to do with business and marketing if it's a more general business networking event or workshop. Ultimately, it's about meeting people and building relationships. There's those opportunities for learning and development. Visibility, you can build your visibility. You can be seen as the face of your practice. People can get to know you and it can help build your credibility. If that isn't enough reason to go along, then there's usually free tea and coffee and maybe some free pastries if you're lucky. So there's a few common myths about networking, that networking is only for extroverts, that if you go to a networking event that you need to sell aggressively and that's going to be the same, that other people are going to be trying to sell to you, thrusting business cards into your hands, that if it's a regular event that you need to attend every time. Also that networking doesn't really lead to any tangible results, that you have to be some kind of smooth talker to be successful at networking, that networking is just a one-time event, once and done, and that going to networking in-person events is just about what you get from others. So, I could challenge all of those points. I always think it's best to go with the serve first mindset, that if you go to a networking event with the attitude of I'm here to listen to people, to hear their stories and to find opportunities to help them, then that is a far better approach than going in there in a sales mindset thinking, I need new customers, I need to get at my target is to give out as many of my business cards as possible. I really would not recommend that approach to networking events and in-person events at all. I'm going to talk a little bit actually about the point about that it's just for extroverts. There are plenty of ways that introverts can push a little bit out of the comfort zone and to get a really good return on investment for that energy that they put into going to networking events. So we'll swing back and talk about that in a little while. Do you really need to go to any networking or in-person events? Nobody's forcing you to go to networking events or to conferences. You don't have to go, but it's definitely beneficial for you and your business. So it's a case of weighing up the pros and cons for you based on your goals and the goals for your business. There are alternatives if for whatever reason you just can't get to in-person events. You can attend online events. There's plenty of virtual events. That is definitely an option for you. You can engage in online communities and forums and you can still get benefits there and start to build relationships that way. But I don't think anything beats the impact of just meeting somebody in person and just getting in front of somebody in person. So what if you're shy? Now, believe it or not, this might surprise you with me being a podcaster, but I'm I'm quite shy. Like, I'm not an extrovert. I'm really more of an introverted person. And I mean, my early experiences of networking, I got invited to networking events. I said no to most of them. And I would kind of actively go out of my way to avoid going to networking events or in-person events. It didn't really feel comfortable. There was some that I went to in the early days where it was like a lunchtime CPD organised by a local building control company. And that felt a bit more comfortable because I knew that there was going to be a few familiar faces there. But the thought of walking in a room full of people that were all chatting away and me not knowing any of them, it kind of scared the living daylights out of me. So I really didn't do anywhere near enough networking or attending events for many years. And in particular, when we, as a family, relocated across the UK from Lancashire to Norfolk back in 2016, and at that point, I totally avoided going to any networking events or in-person events. And with hindsight, I think as a consequence, it was one of the reasons why I really struggled to get my architecture business off the ground in Norfolk. Sales typically come from 4 different ways. There's referrals, relationships, outbound sales, and ads, so advertising. And back then, I didn't have the budget for paid advertising. I didn't even know that outbound sales was a thing. My past relationships had generally been built by accident. There was no strategy behind it. Pretty much all of my work, all of my paid work, all of my clients had come from referrals. And had I realised that building new relationships was one of the most potent ways for me to get new customers, I would have leaned into that. Instead of hiding behind my computer, writing social media posts and creating social media graphics, because that's what a lot of the online gurus had taught me. The videos that I'd seen on YouTube about how to get customers, a lot of those people online were telling you it was all about social media. Some people get sales from social media, but, you know, in terms of what you can control and what has the most impact, focusing on people and building relationships, I believe now is far more important than any of those other things that you could be doing. Remember, don't forget to download the Architecture Business Blueprint, the step-by-step formula to freedom for architects, architectural technologists and architectural designers. You can grab the blueprint without any charge at architecturebusinessclub.com/blueprint. And if you're enjoying this episode, then please leave a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Now back to the show. So, what if you're shy? I'm just trying to answer this question for you now. I mean, things that you can do. You can start small. You can attend a smaller event where it's easy to engage with people, to have one-to-one conversations without it being too overwhelming. You could bring a friend or a colleague along for support if there's a local event that you could go to. You can do a little bit of preparation in advance. So you can do a little bit of research. There might be a list of attendees. And if there's a speaker, there could be a speaker or speakers, if it's a bigger event, that you can connect with in advance. You can actually reach out to them, do a little bit of, don't want to use the word stalking because that sounds a bit creepy, but essentially that's what it is. You'd be going out onto LinkedIn, for example, and finding the speaker that's going to be at the event and commenting on a couple of their posts and maybe dropping them a message to say, hey, I'm going to be at the event that you're talking at next week. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. It's just a little icebreaker so that when you get in the room in person with them, whether that's the speakers or the attendees, you've already broken the ice. You've already got something that you can talk about. While you're at the event, I mean, focus more on listening. Do more listening than talking. So ask some open-ended questions, listen to what people have got to say, show some genuine interest in what people have got to talk about, listen to their stories. You know, people appreciate good listeners, and it takes the pressure off you, because then if you've got less that you need to talk about yourself, because not everyone, particularly if you're an introvert, most of us introverts are not comfortable talking about ourselves. So What if there aren't any events near you? Something you can do is you can be strategic about which events you attend. So you could consider traveling to a smaller number of larger events during the year. So rather than committing to doing something every week or every month, you could just go, okay, I'm just going to go to one or two larger events where there's going to be more people there to meet in a shorter space of time. And that can work for some people. So depending on where you're located in the world, it could be something like New York Build or Chicago Build if you're in the States, or the AIA's annual conference. If you're out in Australia, it could be something like Sydney Build. If you're in the UK, it could be something like the RIBA's annual conference. They have a marketing conference called Guerrilla Tactics and a lot of regional RIBA events. CIAT, for Architecture and Technologists, they have an annual AGM conference event, and they have the AT Awards in London later on in the year. You've also got London Build, which is another huge industry event in the UK, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. So the other thing you could do, you could even host your own event. If there isn't anything local, you could organise your own local meetup or workshop. This doesn't even need to be anything fancy. You don't need to provide catering. You don't need to have speakers. It could literally just be, we're doing a meetup and it's at a local cafe or a local pub, and it's just an opportunity for other business owners to come together. It could be industry specific for architecture if you live in a big city. It could be property specific for people from the worlds of property, construction and architecture. Or it could be something that's more generic for other small business owners. And there's advantages to doing any of those types of events, but don't overcomplicate it. Just go out there and give it a try. The other thing that I should mention again, just a reminder, you can use online platforms. So you can attend online events, or you could organise your own online meetups over Zoom or Google Meet, whatever you prefer. And again, it's just another option for you if in-person, for whatever reason, isn't going to be possible. So when it comes to networking in-person events, what would be my top recommendations? Well, I think the first one really is just got to be yourself. Like, be your authentic self when you go to these events. Share your interests and experiences. And that authenticity shines through. I think that if you can turn up in a room full of people and you can be comfortable to genuinely be yourself, that authenticity, like, people pick up on it. It really helps to build trust quicker, and it will help you to build lasting relationships, because your people in that room will be drawn to you if you are your true self while you're there. Another top recommendation is to actually follow up. Going to an event and meeting people is great, but if you just meet them once and nothing happens afterwards, like, what a total waste. This could be an amazing working relationship that you have together. It could be a new friendship. It could be a new partnership. They could be your next business partner. They could be your next mentor. Follow up with them. And if you had a really engaging conversation and you've exchanged contact details, just follow up afterwards and just say, hey, really enjoyed that conversation we were having at the event the other day. It feels like we didn't finish the conversation. Are you interested in catching up sometime? So that could either be, again, in person for a coffee. It could be online over Zoom. You figure it out, but do follow up and maintain those connections, like those relationships, like meeting somebody new. That's just the start. The magic is in the follow-up and what comes afterwards. The other thing I would suggest you consider is actually setting some goals around networking in-person events, and to actually have some kind of strategy behind it, because they can be time-consuming and they can cost you money, particularly if you are traveling to big industry events that aren't local. Maybe you're having to pay for a train ticket, a flight, hotels, that sort of thing. The cost of attending an in-person event can really mount up. And then obviously it's your time. Like, you never get your time back. Like, that's time you could be working on something else in your business or delivering results for your clients. So I would be quite strategic about which events you choose to attend, And before you get to those events, just be clear on what your goals are. Like, what is it that you're looking to get out of this event? Are you going there because you're looking to learn something? Are you going there because you're wanting to make X number of new industry connections? What is it? What is the reason why you're there? It might be a really different reason. It could be that your main reason is just to be visible. Maybe you're a new business and you're just wanting to get your name out there, get your face out there, because people buy from people. They want to see the face behind the business. But just be clear on what your own goals and objectives are. So I hope you found this useful. If you're interested in attending a large in-person event in the UK with lots of networking and learning opportunities, and if you'd like to meet me in person, then why not come and join me at the UK's leading and largest construction show, London Build 2024. It's taking place in November in London, and I would absolutely love to meet you there if possible. I'm really excited to share that I'm an opening speaker at the Skills and Marketing Hub at London Build 2024. I'm going to be on stage at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 20th of November. You can join me there for free at London Build. The event is on the 20th and 21st at the Olympia in London. And you can register for free tickets using the link that I've put in the show notes. And I should also add as well that I'm planning to host an evening meetup, ideally at a nearby pub to the venue. It's going to be really casual. It's just, no kind of speakers or cringy like intros or anything. It's literally just going to be meeting up with some friends and like-minded architecture business owners and people within architecture at a nearby pub to the venue, and I will share more details about that in the coming months once we pin down the details. Okay, so that's it for this week, so I will catch you next time. Next time, I'm joined by Io Abbas to talk about digital marketing. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Architecture Business Club. If you liked this episode, think other people might enjoy it, or just want to show your support for the show, then please leave a glowing 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean so much to me and makes it easier for new listeners to discover the show. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. If you want to connect with me, you can do that on most social media platforms. Just search for @Mr. John Clayton. The best place to connect with me online, though, is on LinkedIn. You can find a link to my profile in the show notes. Remember, running your architecture business doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need to do it alone. This is Architecture Business Club.